Welcome to the Upholstery Show, live from Arlington, Massachusetts. We're going to serve you up a beautiful bowl of coconut fiber. Really?
You go, Don.
I respectfully decline.
Look, you're very busy there. Jeez.
Oh.
Too big for you?
I was just writing
You're having a senior moment there, Mr. K.
Nobody would let me finish. It was a joke, but that's all right. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to another live question and answer. Notice around the holidays, you guys are slowing down a little bit. You're concentrating on your turkeys because we don't have many questions, but we do have some that we're going to get to. Jimmy's here in the vast studio audience. They're all social distancing. Hey, wake up, Jimmy! Come on!
Yeah, it was that wonderful iced coffee from last week you just gave me. Thank you.
Jimmy, there's plenty of coffee to stay awake. So.
I don't see any coffee in it.
Well, you brought one in yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, I want to see if you're paying attention.
Well, anyhow, Jimmy's here. We're going to have him come up and show us. He completed an 8-way tie on his settee today. And let me tell you, it was a lot of work, but well worth it. And we're going to show it in a little while. Jimmy's going to come up. But anyhow, and then I'm going to show, before Jimmy comes up, I'm going to show you, this is a real French chair. This is a very old chair. And French finish. Very, very fragile. Yeah, very fragile. And it's got one of the that you probably can do. I'll get to that in a minute to reset back. It's real French design, and it's really difficult to show. I wanted to show you guys how I'm going to do that now. I already got the seat down, I just have to trim it up. So I had, we'll get to that in a minute. We're going to start off with something really exciting. Erica has just about finished, if not, well, let me just read what she said. This was posted on the Facebook, forum, right? Yeah. And so she says, here is my mid-century restored couch, before and after. I have ordered the cushion from Kevin. Thank you, Erica. And I think that's probably there already, right, Patrick?
Very fast.
We had a great Zoom session. I just wanted to comment a little bit about the Zoom session. It was nice to see, you guys are always seeing me, but I'm never seeing you. And it was kind of nice, the interaction was kind of nice to see one of my students. And we resolved a few things about Zoom too for...
Erica just joined. So
hi, Erica.
We're
just talking about you in the Zoom class. And by the way, this is a live question and answer. I'm going to ask you guys, we're going to lean on you a little bit because we're kind of light on the questions.
That's because we haven't posted a video then.
That's because
we got about 6 of them coming next week and the week after.
Right. But on the Zoom classes, I think Erica and we talked a little bit about how, towards the end of our session, who would most benefit from a Zoom class. And I think that we resolved that. First of all, never do multiples in this on a Zoom call. I mean, it's not like a conference where we're sitting down talking about the price of beans, or a corporate call, something like that. This is like a how-to and interactive that way. I think one-on-one is, and I think the person who's taking a Zoom class has to be somewhat knowledgeable, because I felt that Erica was getting what I was telling her. I was telling her the point of things she understood somewhat. Some things. But it seemed like translation is kind of hard. That's the bottom line. So I'm not sure where we're going to go with the Zoom classes, Patrick. I think we might even use Zoom, live Zoom classes, maybe just to show my work live or something like that, Patrick.
I think it worked out good one-on-one. I think if we do it, and we still kind of have to revamp the ideas we're having, but I think if we do it, the big group isn't going to work. I think it can be something that's like a substitute for the custom videos.
I think you're right. I think maybe it would be something like I'll be working and somebody can kind of tune in just with me one-on-one, and while we're both working, they ask the questions, kind of like what an apprentice would do in-house.
Yeah, so it's a single session class, no semester.
And I don't
pay-as-you-go type thing.
And if people were good with it, I don't think we have to end at an hour. I think it could be as long as I'm working on the bench, like 3 hours or whatever. It could be like an afternoon of training for one person, and just to kind of peek in. I don't know. We'll still think about it.
You got Eric up there now.
So she said she had a great Zoom session with me where he could see, where I could see. He, sorry, I'm trying to read this the way I'm reading it. Let me just start over. Had a great Zoom session with him where he could see my project in real time and gave me extremely helpful tips. I would have never gotten anywhere else. Thanks, Kevin. I wish I could do this with your 40 plus years, but my first big project, I'm pretty darn proud of it and find the mistakes endearing. That's a great attitude to have. I think that people can get really frustrated in this work when they make mistakes. I think you really have to not be so hard on yourself. I think the mistakes are going to come. It's learning from your mistakes, and then by practice you get better. So I think that she had also, Erica, I would tell you that you picked an extremely difficult fabric, that velvet that you used. That was a very challenging fabric to use on that. Notice I have a crushed velvet that Davenport that we have for sale, Patrick. That fabric that they chose on that shows no pull marks, no wrinkles or nothing because it's a crushed velvet. It's a perfect fabric to use for something like a mid-century. So she struggled with this, but I think she learned a lot, which is really good. She did a great job. You guys are seeing it now, right? Yeah, good job, Erica. It was nice Zoom class that we had. So as usual, you guys, live question and answer. If you're taking the online classes, now is the time to ask questions. Unless we're so good that you don't have any questions on it, that's fine too.
Now, we owe Janine a few responses. She meant a few questions, but there may have been, we answered through the last meeting. But I apologize to Janine. There's one issue with one of the recent classes, tough angle. So that class is tough to film with you and Michelle.
Which
that
one?
That class is tough to film. It's with sewing and
yeah.
I knew that was going to be a problem. So if you want to send a question, if you missed something, the class in lesson 8, I think we just posted. Yeah. Send it in email or send it on YouTube and we'll address it next time around.
So, just to let you guys know, I was watching a great movie. Talk about camera angles. I don't know much about it, Patrick, but I did notice something in this movie. It was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was the name of the movie. It was with Spencer Tracy. It was on last night, and I was noticing the different when there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people involved in one of the scenes, and the cameras. They must have had at least 7 cameras, Patrick, for each person, right?
Right.
So camera angles, and then they probably had they must have had a far away couple of shots too.
Yeah, especially something like the issue she was having with seeing the sewing section. That's
yeah.
Harder. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean,
the sewing machine kind of has a weird angle.
We have 3 angles, and you think it would be enough, but sometimes it isn't.
There's no way to get through that sewing machine.
But I was impressed. They must have had to prep this scene probably. Can you imagine, Patrick, the people who had to set those cameras up for a scene like that with all those famous actors and actresses too. So, but anyhow, that's professional Hollywood. That's a bygone time, isn't it, Patrick? Too. Now they use a lot of digital, right?
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's not an easy task, and Patrick, I think, does a great job with the equipment that he has. He's always bugging me to get new equipment, which doesn't happen because it's expensive. But anyhow, we like doing it, and I think we're learning as we go, I bet. Okay. So the next question we have is from the YouTube. Well, do you want me to do Brad's question, Patrick?
Sure, do
Brad. Brad, is this on YouTube too?
Yeah, I got it up right now.
Brad says to buy a new camera, what is the difference between a solid magnetic end and a magnetic end that has a split in it? Is there an advantage on one over the other? Absolutely. I'll show you the hammer that I have. So this is specifically an upholsterer's tack hammer. Nobody else. It's not a shoemaker's. It's specifically for upholstery. And the thing that makes it unique, the split. There's a couple of problems with the split. Okay, the split, first of all, most of them come out straight. Okay, and the magnet on that split isn't as good as the magnet on this hammer, the closed magnet. So what happens is your tacks tend to fall off much more, or turn sideways much more if they fall in between the split. The other thing, not that I think there's anybody spitting tacks out there, but this is the dip for the person to put the tacks in their mouth. I don't recommend that today. You don't have to do that. But the angle still remains even on the new hammers that they're manufacturing. So actually, when you get used to that little bit of an angle, if you're going to be using the hammer this way, just to put your tacks in, you'll see that there's an advantage to that instead of having flat. Even the hammer part of this hammer, which is this part, is angled down a little bit, so it's not straight. That's another advantage of this one. The other thing, you guys, is the weight. This is perfect weight distribution. The other hammers, the handles are much too light, so you need some weight behind on the handle in order to get a proper tack in. It's just perfect. They designed this perfect, and those are the differences. I think too, quality-wise, these hammers last a lot longer. They're made to last. I've seen hammers 80, 90, 100 years old that are still going strong of this type. So it's a good question, Brad. We have a live question or comment?
Honestly, the story is very interesting and talks about the
Oh, nice. That's a nice comment.
Sounds like sum that up closely to messy phrase.
Well, I'll tell you a story about how messy it is. You guys are lucky that you're not in a formal apprenticeship style training, because there were a lot of pranksters in the day, you know. And I promised myself that I would never prank anybody else in any other way after what happened to me one day. So I'm going to tell him, Patrick. Should I tell him?
I'm not sure.
Is it a horrifying story?
It's a horrifying story, Jimmy. Would YouTube
demonetize us, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's not that bad. Well, so the guys thought they would pull a joke on me. They waited for a very hot day to show me how to fill down cushions. Hot, so I'm really hot and I'm sweaty. It was on the third floor of a factory building, and one of the guys decided to add to my angst to show me how to use spray glue on cushions, on foam cushions.
You didn't fall.
Well, I did, because I was a youngin' and I wanted to learn everything about upholstery. Right?
You're already thinking of.
So
I can franchise all my stores. Upholstery monthly. I can be down in Europe, and everyone will have to work for me.
Well, yeah, I was thinking all that, Jimmy. You're right. So I was spraying the glue, and of course the glue gets on you, and then I did think I did say, shouldn't I fill the down cushions first before I do the spray glue? No. You have to do the spray glue first and then fill the down cushions. So I was all sticky when I started filling those cushions, and Jimmy, by the time I was done, I looked like a chicken.
You look like a chicken?
I did. And then it was lunchtime, and I walked down the street, and it was.
I don't want to say what was next door, but I don't want to say.
But anyhow, that was a prank that was pulled on me, and I wouldn't pull it. I
So
can't.
you're not as eager anymore. Like
No. So what were we talking about? Why did I talk about that story? Why did I bring that up?
One of those awful stories you just feel like you have to kind of put your fill in a little bit of time with.
Well, another guy, what he did, there was an old timer working on an old chair, and he wrote when the guy went for lunch, he wrote in pencil, George Washington, 1775, and signed it George Washington. And so we were about an hour later, we heard this, woohoo! I don't believe it! And he said, what's going on? This was made by George Washington.
They have words for people like that.
That's not good. Fabricating history, Jimmy. You should never fabricate.
Right. Yeah, you think like you're right on that podcast.
Let this be a lesson.
Yeah. Let's try to find Dave Ruth.
Oh, well, we won't talk about that. So, Eric, is there any more live questions?
Pam submitted one. I have that for you, but there's two YouTubes there.
So Erica has a YouTube. Is this?
No, Erica's That was the same one.
Okay.
Yeah, so the two on top.
Oh, the two on top. Let's get to that because we're getting busy on the live question and answer, right, Patrick? And we got a studio audience member who doesn't know how to.
The first thing they tell you, Jimmy, in the movie theater, is the sound.
Hey, look, you know, with all the noise that's going on around here.
Listen, maybe we should do the disclaimer. For the enjoyment of our YouTube live videos, please keep your phone to the mute section, please. Anyhow, sorry, Jim, I had to pick on you. So we got one from Colin, and he says, wow, can you get this any smaller, Patrick? Wow. I don't know if I can read this.
You want me to read it for you?
Yeah.
All right. I'm so grateful for your video. I would never imagine myself recovering a chair, but videos such as yours and Ed Feldman's old series have been both interesting and instructive. I finished my project yesterday, and I already have my eyes peeled for so new. I'm a new subscriber, so it'll be ages of digging through your videos. Thanks.
Well, thank you, and it reminds me, if you guys are watching the live show and you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I know we got a few people watching this live, and if they're watching it live, you know, subscribing does help. Everybody, when I watch a channel, they're always telling me to subscribe.
And please comment on the videos, because we'll always answer your questions live.
Yeah, we try.
We'll see it and we'll wait to make sure we do it live.
And if we miss some, please let us know. And that, I should tell people, he was commenting on the 18th century English Victorian chair, Patrick.
Yeah, that's the most recent video.
Right. See, there you go. People like the recent ones that we have. So we got another one here. Can you read that one, Patrick? That last one.
Sure. This is on waterfall skirt tips. Sonia says, do you put in a corner pleat? Thank you. I've been in business for 34 years, but haven't done a waterfall skirt for many years.
Corner pleats, yeah. On the waterfall skirts, you do put corner pleats. You have to. You know, she's talking about where the skirt breaks, and then behind that, I put a pocket. Usually a lined pocket, unless the fabric's really heavy. Then that's another one. What do we got? A live one here,
Pam?
Oh, for Pam.
Yeah. Haven't heard from Pam in a few weeks.
So Pam's supposed to be.
She's been prepping for Thanksgiving.
I think this chair that I have up here is inspired her. She says, hello, I have a chair frame because the frame front section is lower than all the rest of the sides. I'm not sure how to start with this one. Huh. Well, that might have had a wire edge, Pam, but I don't recommend a wire edge. So what you're going to need to do to build up that front edge, and you didn't specify, if you're watching, is Pam watching right now? Make sure that I'm talking about an upholstered seat, right, Pam? This is an upholstered seat, and do you have all the filling? That's my question to you. We'll wait to see if she responds to that.
Well, I think Pam's pretty much on her to me.
Yeah, but she's got a unique situation here with this because...
Well, I saw the picture.
You saw the picture?
I saw the picture of the chair.
Uh-huh.
And it's like what we have here, to a point. But again, the front of it is lower. You should be able to do regular and do.
Did she respond yet, Patrick?
I have nothing, just an empty frame.
Oh boy. Okay.
Did you see it?
So, I'm looking at it now, Jim.
Okay.
So, Pam, what I would recommend that you do on this is to put a double edge on that. And Patrick, one of our online classes, the East Lake chair, I can't believe I remembered this, shows Michelle doing a double edge on the East Lake.
And I know Pam has a subscription.
Pam, you got to look at the East Lake chair. You got to look at what Michelle did. She took one of these. This is secured. Now, I wonder if she wants to do springs on this. Let me just look at this. You know, I don't know if I'd recommend putting springs on this because I'm looking at the side rails and they look very thin to me. So you may want to do, let me see, hold on a second. Look at this. No, I think you need to do springs. So I would do a number 2 spring. I would do the webbing on the bottom, attach number 2 springs in rows, and then you're going to tie the springs, and you're going to burlap the springs. And then the East Lake chair that Michelle does shows you everything. So you're going to put this, you're going to fix this on that front rail, and then you need to do another one on top of this in a series of blanket stitch. There's at least 3 blanket stitches that are used to make sure that it's tight. What that's gonna do is bring you up to the, where the other rails are and give you a nice even seat, right? And Jimmy, one of our members in the audience has a question, but there's a few people with their hands up. Let's see. There's a red, you in the, what is that, what's that say, bro?
Yeah, it's not signed yet by the guy who says that he's signing for me.
Is that Broadway
It might
Upholstery?
actually be worth the money someday, he said, which I don't.
Do you see Jimmy right now, Patrick?
It's hard to make him out, he puts the whole swing
You're just like your father.
Is he social distancing back there?
I don't know.
Any further, I'd be in another zip code.
So what, you had a question?
Well, what type of, is it the nylon thread? What kind of thread would you use?
It's gonna be the nylon tufting twine,
Nylon tufting.
which is really important. You don't wanna use a thread that's gonna break. You need something that really is strong, and the nylon
That-
tufting twine doesn't.
So,
She's got a good question.
one literally on top of the other and so,
So yeah, so she's going to web the bottom.
right.
She's gonna anchor the springs either with the hand stitch that we show people how to do it with the slip knot, or with the clinch it. She's gonna 8-way tie the top of the springs, the number 2 springs, because I want a little bit bigger than a number 1 to bring her up. I want to see a little bit of a crown on these. And then she's gonna burlap. Then she's gonna put the edge roll on. Then she's gonna put rubberized horsehair on. Then she's gonna decide, this is up to Pam, whether she wants to put 1-inch polyurethane, the high density 2.6 that we sell on the website, or 2-inch. The advantage to the 1-inch is a little easier to work than the 2-inch. Okay, she can secure that by, she can spray glue it to the front edge and then staple it on the sides and the back. The trick there is she needs to keep her fabric lines open. She doesn't want to go over her fabric where her fabric's going to be stapled. I think Pam knows what I'm talking about.
Okay.
She's got a good grip on this. Jimmy has another question.
Well, because you have to put it, sew them together.
Are you talking about the edge roll?
The edge roll.
That is really tricky. She needs to make sure that it's tight, and the goal there, Jimmy, is to make it as one.
Could you get, okay, here's a, if you get, take a piece of burlap, sew the, put the edge roll next to each other, kind of sew it together as tight as possible, or you still have to?
It's really hard to sew it with the burlap. You know, the blanket. Do you remember how to do a blanket stitch,
Yeah.
Jimmy? Do you remember?
Yeah.
So that really gets it pulled tight. So when you do the first one, you could check the edge roll and it's still moving. Then you do a second one, and then you do a third one behind it. And that if anybody else is watching and you want to know how to do this, what I'm talking about, you have to buy the East Lake that Michelle did on the BroadwayUpholsterySchool.com. It's worth it, I think. So what you're going to find, some upholsterers, and I'm not saying they're wrong, I mean everybody has their own techniques, Jimmy, right? Some upholsterers build all of their seats, all of the stuffing on the seats off the chair. They don't fix it to the chair. So that's a little bit of a difference than what I was trained to do all the fixing to the chair.
Right.
So Europeans are good at taking it off and working on a table without the piece of furniture, but with all the measurements in front of them.
Right.
And then just building all the padding on the
So
chair
you're
by.
taking all of what you have, the layers.
Yeah.
Now you're putting it back.
And then they leave a piece of burlap so that you can attach it to the chair. The problem that I don't like about that is that you only have one piece of burlap holding the whole thing on.
Right.
So when that, and I've seen this, when that burlap fails, the whole padding starts to shift.
Right.
Whereas if you fix it to the chair,
It's permanent.
so what I think happen is with tack work, right? That with tack work, you're banging a lot on the tacks with the fixed application that I do. This was before the invention of the good staple guns. So the staple gun actually allows you to fix more things onto the chair without damaging the frames. And Pam's got some things there that are very fragile. She has to be careful with that.
But is that unusual, piece of furniture with regard to build up so much?
Not really. I mean, I would have liked to have seen it. It originally had, I think, if I could see this, I want Pam to take a look at the front, at those front, see if she can find a hole on either end that a piece of wire would have gone into, or it's bent, and she could see two, she's either gonna see one hole built into the frame of the chair itself, or on that block, she might see two big holes. Either way, that represents what would an edge, what they call edge wire would be. And I don't use edge wire, I don't like them. I don't think they hold up well. I think they bend too easy, and then you got a problem there. So I'd rather do it like way I said. Really, Pam is really intuitive. She's got some really good questions.
You bring her on the show.
I know. Well, she visited me here. Did I tell you that?
No, you didn't tell me.
Nice.
Oh, but thank you. You know.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got a couple of more questions here that have been asked of me over the years, related to how I run my business. And one of them is, how do you advertise? In the old days, Jimmy, it was the yellow pages. Now I remember
The what?
the yellow.
What's that?
Yeah.
Jimmy's phone was what was that? Jimmy, you used one of those cranked up phones, did you, in your house?
Yeah,
One
I
of
had
those.
to crank it for an hour just to get a call across the street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that old, huh?
Yeah.
And your phone number was 218, or
Yeah, I was a 10-person party line.
There you go. I mean, you're dating yourself, Jimmy. That's cool.
Hey, you know what? Did you know that they used to go to, this is about farming, that they used to go to the farmers wanted to talk to people, their telephone lines would.
Everybody can hear what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember the kids.
I could see doing Seabiscuit in the 5th race.
I got it. All right. I tip, Dad. Guess what? We're going to the track.
And everybody bets on it. It goes off. What is the odds long? 1 to 10.
35 to 1. Dad, we can actually eat next week.
So it says, so 40 years ago, it's interesting how things have evolved and things have changed so much. 40 years ago, you would do yellow pages, and they don't exist anymore. And do you know that I can actually rip, I wish I had yellow pages with me.
I wish I had one at the house.
Yeah, bring one in next time, and next question and answer, I'll show you how to rip it.
Really?
Right in half, yeah, just like that. There's a way.
I mean, they could actually do some damage.
What?
They were some of them, the book was really.
Oh, they were thick books,
Yeah.
especially Somerville. I mean, and those areas, Boston, they had a lot in there. It's your only source
Yeah.
was the yellow pages.
And it's, yeah, I mean, you take a minute now today to find something. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it was within a half an hour.
So that was 40 years ago. The other thing that we used to have to do a lot is social groups. I remember the owner of the company that I worked for, he was involved locally to every group you can imagine. Every civic group he was a member of or the head of, and he would be out every night to each one of these groups, the Chamber of Commerce. He belonged to a temple, so he was on committees at the temple, all so that he could advertise really himself, and it did work for him. He was one of the greatest at advertising in his era. So now today though, people ask me, if they're running a business, what the best way to do it is. I myself don't have great luck with Facebook. We like the forum, but as far as advertising on Facebook, I don't get a lot of, I don't think that's my target audience, at least for me. So I don't go to our own website is really where we get a lot of, and Google searches, we get a lot of business that way. And when I first started here, I wouldn't discount a sandwich board, Jimmy. I mean, wouldn't you do that if you wanted for your own business, if you were just starting out?
Starting out, yes, I think social media has helped an awful lot of people with at least the beginnings of exposure with regard to great Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, but I'm talking about at least my success, where my success is. I'll tell you where I have great success is local lists, local community lists, and this is built on reputation after you started to get some momentum. In the beginning, though, I wouldn't discount anything. I would try on the local level. As soon as get a sandwich board, walk down the street, tell people who you are and what you're doing, because you'd be surprised how many people don't know, especially when you just start in a community.
Oh, yeah. Well, how long have you been here?
We've been here 10 years and we just started getting a lot of traction, so I don't have to do the sandwich board right now,
Okay.
right? But if you're just starting out, do some things that are going to attract attention, because there are other people out there who are doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
You know?
if you have like a, first time shop owner,
Right.
10% off for fabric or
Right.
labor or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, you do all kinds of things to get business, to make yourself known in the community.
Oh, yeah.
You know. So the other thing is, somebody asked me, how do you build your skill? That's just time investment. That's just doing it over and over and over again, right, Jimmy?
Yes.
So I think what I'm going to do now is get to this chair. Offer you guys some tips on this particular chair. So I'm going to put this over here and talk about this a little bit. So this has a small diamond shape to it, okay? And I have always marked my cover. I have the X marks the top of the fabric and also the direction for me. So that X I know, but if you guys want to put in outside back, this is the outside back top, or some people like to tape it. Some people do both so that the tape falls off. They got some identification. This is really important before it leaves the table. Before it leaves the table, after you cut it, never pick anything up without marking it, because this particular fabric is kind of almost a reversible fabric. Almost. So what I did was I notched the center. I actually took the diamond, I notched the diamond, and then I followed the diamond down. On this particular one, some on small patterns, don't trust and notch like that. You could do, what I do is I go to the closest center point right here, and I notch that, and then I actually follow down and notch the bottom, right? Because you have to make sure that it's centered, all right? And the next thing I do is I mark the frame. I did want to show you something on the frame. So I mentioned that the frame here is very, very fragile. And as such, I didn't want to go digging after these staples. I took out as many as I thought was going to be enough in order to get my new staples in. But what I didn't want to do is start digging at these with my awl and then causing problems along this edge, or worse yet, this edge. Both of the edges are seen and they're finished edges, okay? This edge here is seen from the outside. And the whole thing about these chairs, these French chairs, the thing that makes them different is that they're dining room chairs, and they sit around the dining room table, but you're able to see the nice fabric transition here. It kind of just melts into the wood. And that's actually hard to pull off, okay? You need to be very careful when you're putting your staple work on. So I'm just going to show you how I would approach this. The first thing I need to do is I need to center this. I need to get a chalk or a pencil line on this just to indicate center. And I'm trying to work, this is a little hard, you guys, because I'm trying to work from the side to show you what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go from the seam to the seam here. If I can pick up the other seam, there it is, 12 inches. And then we're going to go 6. And then we're going to go... There we go, lines there. So for all you guys at home, if you're not used to using your staple gun, like as a pin staple I call it, you might want to at this point get your small tacks, even your 6-ounce tacks, and start with, you want to line up your notch to your center line that you just put in. Bring it up a little bit like so. I want to tell you what doesn't matter on this. Sorry, I gotta plug this in. What doesn't matter is the horizontal repeat. Nobody is going to be able to pick up a horizontal match. Don't worry about it. Make sure it's straight, but every one of these doesn't have to be at the horizontal point. I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. You know, you don't have to be that obsessive. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So I'm going to come up, and you can either pin tack this or pin staple, and a pin staple is just the way it sounds. I'm going to take my staple gun and just turn it a little bit so it's not a permanent. Notice how I'm up a little bit here too. I'm about 3/4 of an inch. Now I'm going to make sure I'm straight here, and I'm going to pin staple. I'm not confident enough that these staples are where I want them. That's why I don't want to put them in all the way. I'm going to come all the way over here with my thumb. And then I'm going to, I really have to be careful that I'm not in the finished wood and I'm not shooting through the finished wood on the outside. Watch, that's what I mean. And then I'm constantly feeling the edge to make sure that I didn't go through. If I do go through, I can surgically remove the staple from the other side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin staple the bottom. I got to make sure that I'm lined up, and just gently pull it down. Now, I'm going to turn my gun up this way. You could be careful doing that, right? I only have about 1/4 of an inch of wood there to work with. So, oops. Now, you guys would be having the benefit of, working like this. You probably haven't worked down like this and working, but for your benefit, I have it up and I'm off to the side. It makes it a little bit more difficult. Let's just see how we're doing here. So what I was talking about earlier, okay, I like the way this looks so far. I think I'm going to take a pin staple on the sides now. Notice I'm not pulling this, I'm not stretching this that much. It's not like I'm going over cover. This is just going over nothing really. So I don't have to stretch it really tight, because the only time you're stretching and you're using other techniques that I've shown you on the YouTube, over springs, it's because it's springs and padding. And you're covering, you're stretching out over that. That requires more stretching. Do you follow me? So let me just bring this back again. Let me get another staple here. Pin staple. You'd be pin tacking if you want. And then another one there. Let's see how good I am. See if I've gone through it all. So again, I'm going to take my finger, roll it along here, nothing coming out. Okay, I wanted to make a point about something here. So now, actually, let's just get another, we're sagging a little bit there. I'm just noticing. This is, you're using your eye now to see how straight your cover is. Right? Okay. I like that. The point I was going to make is the vertical line's pretty obvious. You need to make sure you get that straight. But the horizontal line, you're not going to have to worry about on the next chair. There are 6 of these. That you've got your horizontal line in that position. You don't have to do that. Nobody is going to be able to notice that line. So some things you can kind of ease up a little bit on, right? I just wanted to point that out. So I just want to show you, because we're doing good here with the time. I mean, as far as using it. So what I'm going to do now is, now that I'm satisfied that all these staples are where they should be, I'm going to start stapling for real in between the pin staples, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to incorporate, when I'm going in all the way like that, make sure that you're angled a little bit into the meaty part of the chair, right? You don't want to be angled this way and skimming out here. So a lot of this is working blind too, so you have to be real careful. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to explain what I'm going to do from here. I'm going to be stapling about every 2 inches or so, all the way around. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to take out my pin staples and maybe reinsert another staple for real. And then I'm going to fold this over like so. I'm going to trim this up a little bit so that there's 1 inch consistent, or 3/4 of an inch all the way around. Then this gets folded up and this gets stapled in between the 2 inches. So you actually have a staple about every inch. And then what happens after that, there's a lot going on with this back. It's really a lot of work. After that, we need at least one webbing this way and one webbing this way. And I'm going to cool it a little bit with the webbing. That's all I'm going to put on. And then burlap. And then a 1-inch foam, and then cotton. So you see the back gets a lot. And there's just that 1/4 inch back. This is a very challenging chair. That's why I saved it. I did the seats first. Less challenging, right guys? So I hope you learned something there. I'm just going to put this aside. Any questions, Michaela? No? Okay. Now, can you page Jimmy? Because I don't see him out there in the audience, Patrick.
I'm at the concession stand, the one that's empty again. Please, you know? Talk about budget cuts.
Would you like to come up here, Jimmy?
I would love to come up.
Thank you for being so patient.
Oh, that's okay. I get my 5 minutes of exposure and people know who I am again.
Well, we hope that one day you'll be... Oh, wait a minute. You were already discovered.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's not go into that little 5-minute Oscar-winning episode.
So Jimmy's working away on the online classes. Which, Patrick, what... Is he back there?
Patrick?
We've lost our director.
Yeah, he decided to quit on us. And I think, well...
This class probably will be posted I would say in the winter, midwinter or late winter maybe, Michaela. She doesn't know. But he's still got a lot of work on this. So.
Oh my God.
Let's show people. Let's just tilt this up. Jimmy finished his 8-way tie, and I'm very proud of him. And now you can leave. You've learned enough, so you can go. We can take your
I can start my own shop now.
But you know, I told Jimmy, I think I told you last week, it's going to end up looking like a spider web, right?
Yes, and you know what? I mean, I was intimidated with the odd amount of springs that we had here because, you know, usually you say everything's in line, and it wasn't quite in line, but we did have to secure anything and everything.
It is. The ultimate seat. And the curves made it a little harder, too, because you have one spring that kind of shoots out a little bit more than the others. And,
right.
You know, and it really, you did a great job. So what's going to happen next week that we do this, we're going to put the burlap on there, which is going to cover the rest of the holes, and that's going to give us the best seating available.
Okay.
That's it. And then
the edge roll will go, right?
The edge roll, and Jimmy's got a number 1 spring, so Pam's still looking. This has a loose cushion. Hers doesn't. That's why I recommended a number 2 spring for her.
Okay.
A little bit bigger spring.
Oh, okay.
But I also don't want her to do anything more than a number 2 spring because of the scale, because of her pieces are very thin, like that French chair. She doesn't want to go too crazy with the size spring. So, you know, you balance it out.
Okay.
So let's put this down for a minute and talk about a little bit after you do this seat. What's interesting about this, Jimmy, what's that?
We have a question.
We have a question, so let's take that.
Okay.
I think it might have been for that, Jim.
The French chair? Sure.
If the webbing will show with the light fabric.
So, good question. Go back, if you can just pan back there. That is a good question. So the trick to this is, before you put the webbing on, and I don't think I mentioned this, so sorry, you put not cotton, because cotton will show the seeds, and the light colored fabric is a concern with cotton. I'm going to take a little Dacron, like a half a layer of Dacron, bonded Dacron. I'm not going to attach it. I'm just going to trim it, feather it out, like right around here, before I put the webbing on. Then the webbing goes on, you don't see the webbing. And you don't see the webbing, and you don't feel the webbing. It's disguised, right? So good question. Who was that asked that question?
That was Gabrielle again.
Gabrielle, you've been doing this. I can tell, Gabrielle. Thank you too, because you caught. If people are going to follow that, I left that information out, and I'm glad she said something. So thank you. So those are the questions, by the way. Now that Jimmy asked.
Well, I was thinking of it too. I said, how do you put the webbing in? And well,
Jimmy and anybody that's taken the online classes, they automatically are asking these questions, you know, which sometimes, you know, as somebody that's just so mechanical like me, you forget, you leave information out, you know, sometimes not on purpose.
But because you've done it so long.
That's right. So an apprentice actually, you know, kind of focuses you a little bit. So what we're going to do, here's how our approach is down the road with this chair.
Okay, yes, this will be interesting.
So the next step is burlap.
Yes.
Then you're going to put your edge roll on.
Right.
Then you're going to pad this up with rubberized horsehair on the back and divide it up into 2 parts, a seat and a deck, because you have a loose cushion.
Right.
Not an upholstered seat. And that way there you have a seam between the seat and the deck, so that you can build up the seat higher than the deck, which is essential to keep the cushion locked in place. Okay,
so how far do you go in from the frame generally to?
About 6 inches. That's a good question. Did you guys hear that? Jimmy asked, bring it up again.
Okay.
Jimmy asked, how far back do you bring your seam? It's about 6 inches. That's a really good question. See, that's
Okay.
what I mean. I was leaving that out. I wasn't saying it, but you asked it. So
Okay.
bring it
Yeah.
back.
I'm kind of curious because you know what it is. Is that true for? I know we had
It's
the
true
arts and
for
crafts.
almost every piece of furniture,
So
even
when
a
you-
sofa.
Okay, so when I did the arts and crafts, I didn't even think of measuring that.
Your arts and crafts, yeah. No, I think we did 5 inches on that. Just
Okay.
it's either 5 or 6, somewhere around there, no more.
But that's a good thing a good technique to know too,
Yeah.
because you need to do it for most
Mm-hmm.
cushions and something like, especially with this, because this is a very flat surface,
Mhm.
and it would definitely be sliding off every other minute.
So depending on your fabric too, we may do it straight or we may serpentine. We may go with the curve of the front with that seam. We're not
Okay.
sure yet.
Okay.
Either way, we'll decide when it depends on the fabric. So then we're gonna build up the seat higher than the deck, which is the back portion of it.
Okay.
And then we're gonna upholster that before we do anything to the back. This is the part that I wanted to get to. We're gonna actually upholster that, okay?
So this would be the first.
And
sec-
then start padding this. After that's done, this gets padded. You don't
Okay.
pad it before you upholster this. A lot of people do that. But what happens is if you do that, all this padding gets in the way of the padding down here.
Okay.
So that's the method to our madness, is that we're going to upholster this all the way and then do our padding. And the advantage there is that you could take your padding, you don't have to secure the bottom padding. The reason this is important, you guys, is because you're working on good transition lines. Even though Jimmy has a loose cushion that goes on this, even though you have a loose cushion, we want a nice transition line between the deck and the inside arm and the inside back. So if you were to put the padding on, if you padded the whole thing up and then upholster it, you're forced to staple all your padding along the bottom. So every time you do that, you have a projection of a pull mark on the foam, on the Dacron or whatever.
Okay, so you'll see what you.
So that presents a problem.
Okay.
So with this, you just simply tuck the bottom padding in, and that's it. That's the beauty of that.
Okay.
And then the top, if we're going to be using foam, we don't know yet, or cotton, that gets stapled along here, but the bottom offers a nice transition line, and it's just an easier way of upholstering.
Okay.
Trust me. So do you have any questions to move
No,
forward?
I mean, it's gonna be an interesting transition to see how it's gonna go with again, all the thing. Oh, I have a question.
Always they take precedent, Jimmy, so
Oh,
excuse
go
me for a
ahead.
second. Yes.
Gabrielle asks, how much horsehair would be needed for the settee?
So we're not using real horsehair. We're using the rubberized horsehair.
So explain that.
The difference is cost.
Well, is it less? Do you use more?
You know, here's the thing, Gabriel. I love horsehair, and I think horsehair is one of the most wonderful older battings you can get. But rubberized horsehair actually does a better job over springs than regular horsehair does.
Do you need twice as? I'm thinking that you would need twice as much horsehair versus the rubberized because you have to kind of layer it.
So her question is, how much would you need if you were going to do the whole thing? And I can tell you how much you would need. You would probably need, I would say, about 15 pounds of horsehair, which is the lowest amount that it comes in. And last I looked, Gabriel, I think we have that online, Patrick.
Yep, we offer all.
How
both
much is
kinds.
How much is a 15-pound loose gray fresh horsehair? How much is that?
I can check. Have to go on.
Check that, because compared to rubberized horsehair,
But
it's not it's
There's a little bit
a
of
lot.
difference.
But if you're a purist and you
And we offer it in 5 different types.
15-pound pad,
Synthetic is 50% horsehair, 50% hog hair, 100% gray horsehair.
that's what I recommend. How much
We got
is that?
15, we got 25.
15.
That is almost $500.
Yeah.
how much?
$475.
Oh my God!
Nearly $500 for 15 pounds,
Wow.
which would do this. You might have a little bit left over, hopefully, but that would mean that what you're using on this is at least a double layer of horsehair on the seat, and a triple layer on the a double layer on the deck and a triple layer on the
the
seat,
front.
so
Okay.
that it brings it up a little bit.
Right.
And then and it's all hand stitched, one at a time. One layer is hand stitched, the second layer is hand stitched. You're just using a bigger needle
Now, when you use, now there is a technique to doing that to get the proper, for you
Yeah.
to use it.
You have to hand pick it, even though it comes from the box, it's nice. Actually, I really do like using horsehair. It's very tactile, you know, it's very
Yes.
nice. I like it.
I think what I
And
have.
I like stitching. It's kind of a therapeutic, Jimmy. If I'm
Okay.
having a bad day, if some...
You know, your therapy now too.
yeah, well, if I'm having a bad day, I used to like doing
That
horsehair.
producer out back must be really like on you all the time.
He is. Is it? So, but then on the back, now you don't use horsehair on the outsides,
Okay, no.
but you would use it on the inside. And on yours, I bet you would only need one layer of horsehair on yours, on the back here.
Yeah,
possible.
actually, that's what it was on the corners.
And then, you know, don't forget you need cotton over that, you know.
Right.
Muslin on the seat, definitely, if you're using horsehair, so you can work the horsehair after it's done. On the back, you probably... Muslin is essential for the springs, but not essential on the back. You could cover it with cotton. As long as you cover it with cotton, you don't need to use the muslin on the back. So that's a big thing. Is there another question live? No? So Jimmy, do you have any other questions before?
No, I mean, this is going to be another transitional piece, of course. I happen to pick the hardwood.
Why don't you do one more thing for me?
Yes.
I want you to fill a down cushion. No, I'm just kidding. I want you to grab your down cushion.
Would you like to put your hands in some glue, Jimmy? Test it, see if it's sticky.
We have some spray glue for Jimmy, and we have some nice
Yeah.
down cushion. This is Jimmy. The only thing we kept on Jimmy's chair was the springs and the down cushion, right?
Yeah,
That
and
was
the
it.
frame, of course.
And the frame, of course. Everything else has to be really worked.
Well, again, I was totally shocked. You know, my client had said that it was old, and when I picked it up, I seemed springs hanging, literally hanging, and I thought, oh my God, this is worse than I thought.
What makes this down cushion really unusual is that it's 100% down. It's the French used to use 100% down. If you can
Of course
believe
they
it.
did.
They did everything well. Now, does that mean it's a good cushion? It's going to hold up for big guys like us? No.
Probably not.
We're going to sit on it and squash it right down, but it's purely aesthetic, Jimmy. So,
Well, it looks much smaller inside this, even though yes, the pattern's going to come out a little bit, but it
Yeah.
still seems like there's a little bit of space left.
but look at that. I want people to notice. Let's just tilt this up just a little bit. Look at how nice this cushion looks scale-wise. Already it's looking good, and we haven't even done any of the work on the
Right.
bottom. But it's appropriate. It's appropriately filled with the scale of the piece, and it goes nicely. If you notice the beautiful feminine curved lines here, the curved lines here, and the curve. It's just perfect for this, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't
Okay.
change it.
Now, if you were doing this for a regular piece of furniture down, and you do the cushions, how do you measure out the? How would you measure out
It's
if
the
you didn't have
exact-
this and said,
I do it the exact size. You have to finish the piece first of all,
okay,
because you have to, and then make the cushion.
okay,
And then it's the cushion. The cushion is the size of the down-proof ticking.
and then you add.
But
of
it's
course-
beveled too. It has this channeling, and we have these cushions online that you can order. They're very customized cushions. And guess what? I recommend 50 down, 50 feather. That's the only cushion I'll do.
Okay,
There's no such thing right now, as far as I know, 100% down anyhow, but I wouldn't recommend 100% down.
and why is that?
Because you need some consistency with the down, and the feather does that.
Okay,
The feather provides some
Stability?
oomph, stability, right? But with this, it's just too fluffy, and it doesn't have the support. But
Okay.
on this piece, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'd use this.
okay. So the feathers basically add a little bit of keeping the
This
body
is
of
purely aesthetic. 100% down is purely aesthetic.
Okay,
I mean, you can sit on it, but you're not going to sit on it and read War and Peace. You might read a periodical or something, and then you're
right.
back's
Well,
gonna-
years ago, this was the formal dining room, formal living room rather.
Right.
So you'd only be using that on special occasions, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. So, and they were perching pieces too. You wouldn't be leaning back against
No,
it.
they're definitely not someplace
Yeah.
like an afternoon nap.
This is where you're going to have a cup of tea with your friends, or talk about the stock report or the stock market or something.
Yes, yes.
Before you go into the other area like the library, which Then you're gonna go into, you see a big, huge English-style leather wing chair, two of them across from one another at a fireplace, right? And a big stuffed cushion and a big chair, and you sit on that, and you can read War and Peace on that.
Yes, I can imagine. I'm sure the wingback chair was probably about, you know, the backing of it was very high at the time. But you,
Yeah,
sure.
the wings were designed to keep the heat off your face while you're sitting next to the fire.
Is that what that was?
And the draft out too, so
Oh,
that
okay.
you got a nice cozy spot in which to read. They were reading chairs.
Oh yeah.
You ever hear that expression, a reading chair?
Yes.
That's what they are. But anyhow, Jimmy, unless we have any more live questions, I think that this has been a very interesting question and answer. I think we've covered a
Yes,
lot.
you had a couple of good stories again.
Well, the only good story I want to see is this finished and you happy as the client, the happy client.
Yes, yes. He's deciding still on the fabric, which I had given him a few samples, and of course he ended up moving things around and ended up like now he doesn't know where anything is. So we're gonna have to go back and start from square one.
So if you
again with that.
want to know, Jimmy is actually entering into the realm of professional upholsterer, because as soon as you take money for any project that you do, that's a professional, right, Jimmy?
Well, yeah. I mean,
So-
what's your professional status? I got to sign up for the union. What's the upholsterers union? 5 and
we
7/8.
Well, that should do our question and answer. We won't talk anymore.
On that note,
On that note, right, Patrick? Well, thanks a lot, you guys, and thanks for tuning in, and
we'll see you on December 3rd.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. We're off
Everyone have a
next
great
week.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
And
Thanksgiving to
all our
everybody.
friends in the U.S., right?
Yes, and go
Around
turkeys.
the world. Yes, go turkeys.
Go
yes.
the 14-pound turkeys, which I understand are in great demand right now, Jimmy, because of the lower gatherings. But
Yes, yes.
we'll say a moment of silence for the 14-pound turkeys, and that should do it. Thanks, guys.